What happens when you pit the world's most creative AI against the most efficient one?
Oh, is the ultimate battle.
It really is. It is the battle of judgment versus execution.
Yeah.
Welcome to this deep dive. Today, the entire landscape just shifted.
Completely shifted. OpenAI just dropped GPT 5.6 all.
Right. And they released it alongside two other models, Terra and Luna.
Yeah, the planetary launch page was incredible.
It was a beautiful page. It had these tiny 5s and 6s drifting around. It looked incredibly polished before I even touched the actual model.
Well, the benchmark charts also looked completely pristine.
They really did.
Sol beat Opus and Fable across the board. And it came in at a drastically cheaper price point.
Which changes everything.
Exactly. It makes every comparison feel very different now.
For developers and creators, it raises a very real question. Which model actually helps you build better things?
Right. And how do you do it without burning your budget?
We aren't just looking at cherry-picked benchmark screenshots today.
No, we are unpacking a grueling, full-day test.
A side-by-side test. We compared GPT 5.6 Sol directly against Fable 5.
Yeah, we ran Solid inside Codex.
And Codex is OpenAI's dedicated coding environment.
Right. And we ran Fable 5 directly inside Claude Canned.
That is Anthropic's terminal tool for building software.
Right. We tested them across 4 real-world coding and design tasks.
We wanted to see how they handle actual production work.
We needed to know if Sol can truly replace Fable 5.
Is Fable still the model you open for serious quality?
That is the big question.
We started by testing their raw creative instincts, because basic coding is getting pretty easy for these models.
Oh, absolutely.
But making good product decisions is still incredibly hard.
Yeah, the first prompt was deceptively simple.
Very revealing, though.
We told him to build an open-world browser bike game.
We wanted something genuinely fun and playable.
Right. We gave both models total creative freedom.
We provided no strict design direction at all.
No camera angle, no art style.
We just wanted a game you could actually play. This tests much more than just basic coding ability.
Yeah, it checks how well the model makes product decisions.
It has to figure out controls, physics, and game feel. So how do they approach the blank canvas?
Well, GPT 5.6 Sol built a top-down bike game.
And it actually worked perfectly on the very first try.
Yeah, which is always a really good sign for execution.
It chose a top-down perspective for a specific reason.
Its internal guardrails prioritize functional, error-free code.
Top-down mechanics are mathematically much simpler to compile.
Exactly. It wants to guarantee a working final product.
It had working movement and proper steering mechanics.
You could collect coins and do little bunny hops.
It even had tricks and a speed boost feature.
Yeah, and the city layout was actually fully playable.
Buildings blocked the player character properly during gameplay.
But, the camera made it feel a bit awkward.
A top-down view is just weird for a bike game.
Very weird. The controls were not as smooth as you want.
It felt like a limited, slightly rigid prototype.
Right. It did exactly what the prompt asked for.
But it lacked any real soul or fun factor. Sol gives you the mechanics of a bicycle. Fable gives you the feeling of the wind in your hair.
Wow, yeah, exactly. Fable 5 went in a totally different direction.
It built a 3D point-of-view style game instead.
It took a massive creative risk with spatial reasoning.
It simulates a 3D environment because it understands modern gaming.
Right. It maps the concept of fun to modern game tropes.
It generated a much bigger city map with massive ramps.
The big difference was the overall feeling of the game.
Fable's version felt significantly more open and expansive.
Yeah, the camera made the game much easier to intuitively understand.
It had that real open-world energy you actually crave.
You genuinely wanted to ride around and explore it.
Fable 5 clearly made the better creative call here.
Oh, totally. A browser game can technically work and still feel boring.
Fable 5 avoided that trap completely by understanding human enjoyment.
But we really need to look at the hard data.
Right. Sol took about 23 minutes to build its game.
And it used roughly 31,000 tokens.
Tokens are just chunks of data the AI reads.
Yeah. Fable took about 21 to 22 minutes to finish.
But it used a massive 90,000 tokens.
It processed way more data to think about the fun factor.
That huge computational difference showed up in the final price.
It really did. Sol cost about $4.50.
Fable cost over $14 for the exact same prompt. Is token efficiency always the enemy of creative ambition?
Well, open-ended prompts require a lot more computational thought. The AI has to actively explore more ideas to find the fun.
Right.
It burns tokens, deciding what makes a game actually enjoyable. If you restrict the tokens, you restrict the creative exploration.
So brilliant creative leaps just cost more compute power.
Exactly. Soul ships a working version for much cheaper.
Oh.
But Fable has a far stronger instinct for creative product feel.
If Fable burns 90,000 tokens finding the fun factor, what happens next?
Yeah, what happens when we ask for something purely aesthetic?
Does that computational cost actually translate to better visual design?
We move to a test explicitly demanding visual impact.
We needed to see if that price gap remains justified.
The prompt was designed to be dangerous in a good way.
We told them to build a scroll-stopping interactive website.
We gave them no fixed layout and no required theme.
We gave them room to make massive creative choices.
We wanted something polished, memorable, and absolutely worth sharing.
Both models actually chose a very similar overarching theme.
Yeah, they built 3D scroll-driven stories about a cosmic journey.
They both included space visuals and dramatic scene transitions.
They even integrated sound into the browsing experience.
The basic idea was incredibly strong on both sides.
Right. This was not a case where one model completely failed.
The difference came down to the final emotional feeling.
Fable 5 delivered an immersive, emotional wow moment.
The scroll motion and 3D background worked together perfectly.
Fable orchestrates complex animations with a director's eye for pacing.
You immediately felt like it was actually cool.
Yeah, Saul's version was also very clean and highly useful.
It had an interactive background and a decent story structure.
But it completely lacked that visceral visual punch.
Saul just stacked basic visual elements together logically.
It did not craft an emotional journey for the user.
For a prompt built around being impressive, Fable won easily.
It understood the emotional goal of the task much better.
Saul just gave you something nice, standard, and functional.
Let us talk about the underlying economics here.
The economics are completely wild when you break them down.
Fable took 23 minutes and cost $19.24.
Soul took just 7 minutes and cost a single buck. 2 sec silence. Whoa. Building a fully functional, interactive 3D website for $1 single in 7 minutes, that completely rewrites the economics of prototyping.
It absolutely does. It changes how teams will prototype forever.
I have to push back on the value proposition, though.
Okay, sure.
Fable made a much better website overall.
Yeah, it did.
But was it almost 20 times better to justify the $19 price tag?
Well, you have to consider the context of the user.
Okay.
If you are an agency pitching a Fortune 500 client, $19 to secure a multi-thousand-dollar contract is absolutely nothing.
That makes perfect sense for enterprise budgeting.
Fable is designed for those high-stakes, client-facing pitches. Sol is for your internal Tuesday morning update meeting.
Where do you draw the line between needing a masterpiece versus needing a fast first draft?
You always have to look at your primary goal. Use Fable when you absolutely need that first impression wow factor. Use Sol when you just need a cheap, usable starting point.
Use Fable to dazzle clients. Use Sol to draft fast.
Right, and that framing changes how you plan entire projects.
Sols gives you something incredibly solid for a fraction of the cost.
Definitely.
We know Fable can build one beautiful thing.
Yeah.
We know Sol can build one cheap thing.
Right.
But what happens when we force them to multitask? What happens when they have to show actual range?
We wanted to see them handle multiple concepts simultaneously.
The prompt was to design 5 fundamentally different visual pieces.
They could be games, simulations, or interactive visual experiments.
I still wrestle with prompt drift myself when I ask models for variety. They always want to fall back into repeating the same core idea.
That is exactly what happened with Fable 5.
Really?
Yeah, it struggled deeply to maintain focus across 5 distinct concepts.
Its attention mechanism basically breaks down across varied contexts.
It gets totally lost in the sauce of its own creative output.
It built a very uneven gallery with highly confusing pieces. Fable had this chaotic art experiment energy.
It made a buggy arcade ring game called Orbit.
A hallucinated menu bug completely blocked you from playing it.
Yeah. It made a space interaction toy called Singularity.
But it had a very confusing goal for the player.
Right. It also made a flight simulator called Terra.
That flight simulator had very odd visual rendering.
It also built a generative art tool called Inkflow.
It just looked entirely random and largely unfinished.
Finally, it made an underwater scroll story called The Descent.
It was nice, but it felt incredibly familiar.
Nothing in Fable's set really stood out as exceptional.
Some pieces worked, but others felt heavily half-finished.
Soul delivered a much cleaner gallery with true variety.
It acted like an organized intern presenting a neat portfolio.
Yeah. Sol built a typing game called Glyph Heist.
It built a Northern Light music toy called Aurora Orchestra.
It built an interesting life simulation called Tide Pool.
It built a map explorer called Atlas of Lost Echoes.
And it built a very clean presentation slide deck.
The deck honestly looked like something Claude would historically design.
Sol definitely still had some software bugs in its code, though.
Right. The typing game had no clear fail-state programmed in.
The music toy had controls that suddenly stopped working entirely.
Type pools seemed to slow the machine down heavily.
But the overall packaging was vastly superior to Fable.
Every piece had a different shape and a clear purpose.
The gallery interface made the work much easier to browse.
I expected this multi-piece task to take the longest time.
But it was actually the fastest run for both models.
Sol finished the entire task in just 7 minutes.
It used about 22,000 output tokens.
And it cost roughly $1 single.
Fable took 15 minutes and cost about $15.
Sol actually wins this round completely outright.
That was a huge surprise to see in the data.
Why did a supposedly weaker model handle ambiguity and range better than the premium model?
Well, Sol is highly obedient to structured formatting instructions.
Ah, I see.
It closely follows the prompt without wandering off creatively.
It keeps things strictly on track when asked to diversify.
Yeah, Fable just overthinks everything and loses the plot.
Sol strictly follows the rules. Fable gets lost in the art.
Exactly. When you need several different directions quickly, Sol is absolutely unbeatable.
Beat. Let us pause here for a moment.
Sure. Mid-roll sponsor read.
We are back to the deep dive.
All right, let's get back into it.
We have looked at deep, multi-step, agentic builds.
Those are systems that plan and do tasks on their own.
But the reality of enterprise AI looks totally different.
Yeah, the reality of enterprise AI is high-volume, single-shot questions.
You send one simple API request to the server.
You need one good, immediate answer in return.
There is no long loop or complex game to build. Who wins the mundane day-to-day work?
We tested quick, non-agentic API calls for this.
These are just single requests asking for a direct response.
The final results were an absolute blowout.
Really?
Sol won 24 times. Fable won only 3 times.
Wow. But Sol did not win on raw intelligence.
No, it did not.
It won because Fable's heavy guardrails caused massive internal issues.
Fable constantly refused to even answer the benign prompts.
High-tier models are heavily fine-tuned to avoid giving bad advice.
This aggressive safety training makes them overly paranoid.
They frequently refuse completely safe everyday coding prompts.
They think they're protecting you, but they're just breaking.
When both models actually answered, the quality gap was tiny.
Sol scored a 0.98.
Fable scored a 0.966.
That score difference is basically a statistical rounding error.
The cost difference was absolutely massive, though.
Sol cost about $16 for the whole test.
Fable cost about $63 for the same run.
Sol answered more often and cost far less money.
Its per-token pricing was roughly half of Fable's rate.
It makes you rethink OpenAI's entire naming strategy.
They called it GPT 5.6 Sol instead of GPT 6.
That heavily hints it's just an execution step up.
It is not a massive frontier leap just yet.
No, it feels closer to a very strong practical execution model.
It might be better compared to Anthropic's Opus 4.8.
Fable 5 is positioned as a true elite frontier model.
But a 10 out of 10 model is completely useless if it refuses to work.
Right. If it refuses a 5 out of 10 difficulty task, it fails you.
If you are a developer listening to this, you know this pain.
Oh, absolutely.
Reliability beats raw capability when you are scaling software.
A genius model is useless if it refuses to answer your prompts.
You do not always need a genius for basic server tasks.
A cheaper model that handles the job reliably is significantly smarter.
How should developers factor in refusal rates when budgeting for AI?
Well, latency and refusals completely break automated enterprise workflows. They stop digital production lines totally cold.
Right.
That makes expensive, paranoid models a huge liability for high-volume tasks.
Unreliable genius is useless for automated, high-volume daily tasks.
That is the clearest business lesson here.
Sol had a much lower median response time.
So it often felt significantly faster for these repetitive tasks.
But the variance was higher with Sol's performance.
Yeah, some runs could jump around a lot more in latency.
Fable was much more consistent when it actually decided to answer.
Fable usually landed around a tight 20-second response window.
But for simple API tasks, Sol is just much easier to justify. Looking at the bike game, the website, the gallery, and the API calls, a perfect mental model finally emerges for how to categorize these two AIs.
Yeah, Fable 5 is the manager, or the startup co-founder.
It has refined taste, high-level strategy, and deep creativity.
It will actively push back on your bad ideas.
It is highly opinionated about design and function.
It acts like a seasoned consultant saving you from yourself.
It is vastly better for brainstorming, creative builds, and product taste.
It prevents you from over-engineering your own projects unnecessarily.
GPT 5.6 Sol is the excellent worker.
It is fast, incredibly cheap, and highly token efficient.
It is highly obedient for clear, repeatable, and mundane execution.
It excels at careful verification and following strict formatting instructions.
It stays much closer to the prompt and structured tasks.
The overall capability tier becomes very obvious when you map it out.
GPT 5.5 is at the bottom of this new tier.
Opus 4.8 is a strong, practical model slightly above that.
Then you have GPT 5.6, Sol as the better execution model.
And Fable 5 sits way above them, with a large capability jump.
Fable has a much higher capability ceiling overall.
Sol just has far better everyday economics for high-volume execution work.
The smartest workflow isn't choosing one model forever.
No, not at all.
It's using Fable 5 to carefully plan the complex architecture.
Right, and then deploying an army of GPT 5.6 Sol agents to execute the code.
You use Fable to write the master spec sheet.
You use Sol to actually write the tedious Python code.
You use Fable when you need pure, unadulterated judgment.
You use Sol when you just need to ship the product fast.
You let the manager draft the brilliant master plan. You let the worker hammer the digital nails.
Now, benchmarks are helpful, but your own daily workflow matters more.
You have to test both models inside your real software setup.
You must weigh your project budget and your tolerance for speed.
If AI is naturally stratifying into managers like Fable and workers like Sol, what does that make you?
That is a great question.
To succeed in the next 5 years, your job is no longer to be the worker. Your job is to be the executive director managing this hybrid AI workforce.
You have to know when to deploy taste and when to deploy speed. It is all about intelligent resource allocation now.
Exactly. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. OTRO Music.